for we're having technical issues today.
Yes, yes, we were. And I think it was because, like, I was doing controls. I'll be honest, like, and I said this to you, I'm not great by the time the afternoon, like, swings around.
Yeah, we're trying something a little different. We're starting a little later today. Welcome to MT Fridays. I'm Melonya Johnson,
And I'm Tahitia Timmons.
and we are filling the brain drain one unscripted conversation at a time. We have had what, 3 conversations today? We have had a lot of conversations today, and we started to do a live today, but we had some technical issues, so we're back. So we were talking about advertisement, and then we kind of just morphed into talking about the value of LinkedIn advertisement, how you feel that you're being advertised to um, uh, via LinkedIn, and really is LinkedIn, well, just for me, I'm just trying to figure out if it's worth the premium cost. And you talked about alignable. So, tell me what you were thinking when you were talking about all this AI driven um, advertisement you're getting through.
Well, yeah, like, so we talked off while I tried to, like, figure out what I had done, pressing a button or doing something with my, sound here. And so what I had mentioned to you, or what we were talking about, was the fact that LinkedIn, seems to bring me more advertisements. And then there is a networking business platform called Alignable, where Alignable, I've actually had more what feels like authentic conversations with people, like people who either are in my same practice or field. And I've just felt like Alignable from a business perspective, or business building and growth and connecting with other people, has been much more productive. And I don't have an Alignable membership. But I find that their, like, webinars and their classes and their things, and they tend to target more around local, like, stuff, like, and I think you've been on there too. Like, it's more around, like, you can only like, if you're not purchasing Alignable, and I'm not selling Alignable to anybody because I don't really go in there that much, but I do notice, like, that's the big difference. I don't have as much spammy stuff that comes through from Alignable. Um, I find LinkedIn to be very spammy.
It feels spammy. It really feels spammy. When when you said the word spam, that's it. You see that little indicator that somebody's reached out to you, and there's a real hope for me that it's actually going to be some authentic human being that I don't know, that really wants to connect for whatever reason, and it's always somebody selling you something. And the one thing that you know when earlier started to use LinkedIn, um, I was had done a networking workshop, and one of the things that someone had said, and I've always remembered it, it said, try to be of value to your network before you start asking for something. Right. Try to be, wow, Melania, I saw your profile. I see that you're a coach and a trainer. I thought this article might be, a good read for you. I want to introduce myself. I hope we can connect or whatever the case may be. That would be a nice introduction. I really don't like it when someone reaches out to you, and I understand business and I get it. I really do. But sales, and I've done sales for a living. Sales is about building relationships. And again, that sage advice that I got, but then again, I could be wrong. I don't have a million followers on LinkedIn, but that sage advice of trying to be of value to your network, right? And before you start asking things of them. And I yeah, I my membership for premium membership just uh, um, renewed, I think a couple of months ago. But I'm still wondering, like, is there really value in LinkedIn for me?
And I go back and forth on that. Cause like I'm very like I'm authentically myself wherever I am. It gets me in trouble. I probably should be more professional on LinkedIn. I'm not. Like and as I've gotten older, um I've become less interested in being sold to, uh, like unauthentic stuff, the amount of followers you might have. And I really feel very triggered whenever someone sends a, like, I want to connect with you, and then follows with a template of, it's the thanks so much for accepting my, and I think I've said this before in posts and things like that. Like, thanks for not so much for accepting my connection to you. And I just want to tell you about how much I love the work that you do in blah, 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 fill in the blank. It feels very like they're using a template to fill in the blank. And I would love to show you how you can grow your business from this amount of money to six figures a quarter. And okay, like right now, you lost me. Like, I talk a lot about anti-capitalism and money, and how like money isn't the end all, and the return on the investment should be about like how much you can serve society. So the minute you target to me with, and I want to show you how you can make six figures in a quarter, I'm not going to work with you now because you don't know anything about me. You pretended to know about what I do. And now I'm just like irritated. Like, I'm like, oh, this person looks interesting. And I hate to say, like, lately, anyone who is a virtual assistant or has like VA as like their work code or whatever they want to call themselves has been very spammy in their connection messages with me. I say yes, automatically the message they want to send me pops up. So I know it's like some type of like, you know, whoever is posting recently, like, they're looking for their what small business. They probably put in, I want to look for a small business or whatever, and they send out a message, and like I will, like I like to network with people and connect. And then like they obviously don't understand what I do. And like and like I almost wanted to like be like, now we're not connected, but that would take too much work. So I let them like exit themselves. Like, so, but it is disappointing. It's disappointing.
Yeah,
Um
it is, and and so being the introvert that I am not, I'm not a social person. I'm an introvert through and through, but I still long for deep connections with folks. And a few weeks back, I actually came in contact with someone that I'm actually linked to on LinkedIn in person, and I have to say that the reception was quite cool, and I thought to myself, isn't that interesting that, we have this desire to build up all of these bodies, body counts, in terms of, how many followers we have, how many, but then when we have an opportunity to make an authentic connection with people, there's nothing there. And so that's why I'm not a big fan of social media, because it's not social. It's something. It's a phenomena. But and again, and so much of it is
it's an
people.
advertising platform
It
to
is
market to you.
right.
Like, I mean, LinkedIn, all of these platforms, they have a fantastic business model for themselves. We literally are creating their content for them. The
Right.
bulk of the content on social media is made by the general public, right? Like, because we all feel like we're connecting to people and sharing something, and we're all just yelling into the wind, which is why, like, I probably have a like, if it goes, like, like, I don't do a lot of like cleaning of my social media because like I acknowledge the fact that most people aren't listening to when I'm ranting. So like, whatever. So that said, but like it's a great model because they don't really build a lot of the content. Like I would say 70% of the content comes from the public. Then we all compete with each other to see how many follows we can get. It tells us, hey, here's an analyzing tool if you join premium so you can see how to target your post to the market that you want. And market is an interesting name, right? Because if I have a target market, I'm obviously trying to sell them something versus like, here's how you can analyze who's following you to uh, reach out to those who you want to set community with and grow with. But no, it's actually more the verbiage is like, who do you want to market to? Who is your, which implies I'm going to sell something. Yes, I'm selling something, right? Like we're all selling something. But I also want to collaborate and like have community with the people that I sell to and the people that I like am interacting with, which is why I like I have such a hard time with the sell. Like
Well,
I love the
think
people who I do work with,
I
but
think
I have
through
a hard time with big
I
sell.
think through interaction with people, real genuine interaction with people, you start to see their value, right? I mean, people. There's that saying: people buy from people they know, right? And I've never been tempted to click on a sponsored ad or a sponsored uh, solicitation from somebody that I know that doesn't know me, and I don't know you, but I would, if you post, then I would love to see your post and get to know you through that, so that you start to build a familiarity and sort of a relationship with that person, and that doesn't happen. And I just wonder, you know, uh, and it might be a very successful sales model. I'm always confused, to be quite honest, what LinkedIn is for. I don't know what it's for. Do you? Does anybody out
I
there, what is LinkedIn for? What does it do?
well, I think it originally started out as a place where people could socialize in a professional business way that was different from Facebook, and Instagram was supposed to be pictures. Tumblr was really more for like tweens, like 13 to whatever age was over in the Tumblr. You had all these, there's tons of different social media platforms doing all different types of things. But LinkedIn really was supposed to be more for professionals and for job finding, right? Like LinkedIn used to be an employer needs to hire someone, and you kind of had a very professional sort of like, here's my social media I can share with you that's more professional. Because Facebook, and I do kind of remember this happening. I was working at a hospital back when Facebook was starting to pop up, and we started to have social media policy programs. Like, no, policy at the hospital, meaning there was a certain thing we started saying we didn't want employees to say, right? Like, all of a sudden, social media was focused on by um, like professional organizations that didn't want employees spilling the tea. Right? Like, don't talk bad about me on Facebook. Don't talk bad on it was called Twitter back then about your organization. And you started to see a lot more people say, these thoughts are mine. They don't represent blah, blah, anyone else. And LinkedIn really bloomed during this time period because it was like, here's my professional thoughts about stuff. Now, if I were to be honest, every place is a hodgepodge of half professional people talking, half like this is my life. And LinkedIn does this a similar thing. And they did do that, I think it was like 2 years ago. LinkedIn said that they were gonna go through people's, like, followers and get rid of the spammy people, and they had done this kinda shift in how, they, did their algorithm. Like, it was gonna be much more leaning towards professional stuff. But it still is sort of a hodgepodge of, like, half professional and, you know, people talking about their life. That is why when I say, like, if you're a professional and you have a business you're trying to grow, Alignable is much more just business, like just businesses talking about events and things that they're doing. LinkedIn is not. LinkedIn has now, I would say it's more similar to like maybe it's a professional Facebook, a professional leaning Facebook, but there's just as much like rants on LinkedIn, right? Like 5 years ago, you rarely would have seen someone be like, "Let me do my dance on the LinkedIn." Like, like people weren't doing that. And then we wanted to be authentic and we wanted to be like that was the driver to show like more authentic and I'm a human being, not a robot manager. So like that LinkedIn allowed you to be a little goofy. And now I think we've like taken it way too far because and I know that sounds awful, but like some of that authenticness was to make like CEOs and directors seem like they cared about their employees, which I don't know. Like, I don't know how true that is in some cases. Like, so I think that's why like people do sort of look at LinkedIn now and they're like, what does LinkedIn do? Like,
I got my dog barking in the background. Yay!
it was supposed to humanize all those CEOs that
Yeah.
could give two about you.
Yeah, I just, you know what, I would love for LinkedIn to be. I think, I mean, I don't know how many millions or billions it brings in annually. I have not seen any new features on this site. They don't really do anything to make it more interactive, more interesting, more, creative, more. I just, and now we talk a lot more about political things on LinkedIn than we did before. And here's the thing: I'm not necessarily. I don't have a problem with that because our politics does affect our business and things of that nature. So I'm not so, turned off by that. I just, it just feels like, and I guess over the last couple of years, I've seen more advertisements on LinkedIn than I've ever had before from, using it for many years. So yeah, we're constantly being advertised to, and um, I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate, again, we're paying. We were talking
And
about and
yes.
in our the live stream we did, that we had to stop for technical issues, but we're
Just
paying.
say it was me.
It's just, Tahisha is our technical issue, right? She is our technical difficulty.
It's
But
me.
but
I'm the problem. It's
Right,
me.
all is within the house. But here's the thing. So you pay for a premium LinkedIn, right? But then you get spammed all the time, and from, people pretending like they know you, and but they just are trying to get business from you. And then you have to actually scroll past advertisements. And it's like, so what am I getting for the premium? Like, I don't want to be advertised to. I want a space in the world where I'm
You're
not being advertised to.
you are paying to have the premium advantage to perhaps make a different type of like what is it, like dashboard at the front, like to put like I'm a paying member to be able to look to send more like
Spam.
spam to other people to spam more people with like, hey, I don't know if you know, which is why like I don't know why I pay for premium because like I definitely have a like there'll be a thing like you can send to 250 people a random like come show blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it brings me such anxiety because like sometimes I get anxious when I see those. And it's like, hey, I just posted something. I've now sent this to 300 people. And I'm like, these 300 people will hate that I do this. Um, but like I just looked up because I was curious. So LinkedIn generated 17.1 billion
Right.
revenue in 2024. That's an increase of 8.6%. Their price has probably gone up from when they first started. They have over 1 billion members. However, it's not known how many are active every day, every month, when they last were on. Are they a real person? We don't know, which I think they had tried to clean up a little bit. The most members, this is interesting. The United States has the most LinkedIn members. So which it's interesting and it also makes sense because like we're always trying to sell something and we're also willing to be sold to. Like if you want to test whether someone will pay for your content and pay to be advertised to every 5 seconds and made to feel bad if you can't afford something, come to the US. We are the perfect psychological testing ground for that, apparently. 70 million businesses and 160,000 schools have LinkedIn accounts. I got this from a site called Business of Apps, which I believe is it looks like it's very concentrated on LinkedIn
So
info.
71 billion dollars they made. And what
17.
17
Yes.
billion dollars. And I defy anyone to share what recent LinkedIn update or improvement has happened in the last, I don't know, year, 2 years.
Well, they did have this one thing where like so it's probably more than 2 years, but like they have this like check mark. Like, have you seen that where it's like it's a person who is
A-
um a
Approved
like
or
expert. Well, they have I think they have that, but then they have this other one like voice of something where like let me find
yeah,
somebody. I knew it.
it was so impactful you can't even remember it. That's how impactful.
Here's what I know about it. Like, I've seen it pop up for other things, and I know that it's usually like a voice of someone. I follow a doctor who has it next. Let me see what her thing says, because I think she has one of those. Yeah. So it is. Actually, I I take that back. um, I actually have no.
We're trying to figure out what value LinkedIn has besides spamming us with advertisements and people using AI to try to get sales from you.
Okay. So they do have. I got super excited to find this. They do have this thing that is like a blue little check thing, and it says top voice.
Oh,
Okay. And those are considered like the top voices in a certain category. And I don't exactly, oh, I clicked on it. Okay. So I looked up someone and it says, I'm going to give, I am looking at the profile of Robert Livingston on LinkedIn, and he is a top voice and he's part of the Top Voice program, which is an invitation only group of experts across the professional world. So, and he is a Harvard social psychologist and author of The Conversation. So, what's interesting about the top voice people is that it doesn't necessarily mean you have like 300,000 followers or a million followers. It means they consider you an expert. And I don't know how they choose that, but like that consider you an powerful and impactful voice in the community on the platform. But the yellow box or like the checked in box, I think is you're paying. And I
Yeah,
should
but
know this
and
better.
I go back to saying what I said. Like, if LinkedIn is making 17 billion, up 8% from last year, um, so so it was up 8% last year. You know, what are they doing actually to make the platform more, like I said, less spammy, actually of value to people? I don't I every once in a while I will see someone post on LinkedIn that they're looking for a job. I don't know what, and here's the thing too. If LinkedIn is supposed to be one of the premier places to find work or to find talent, don't you think they should have some statistics on that? Like, you know, via LinkedIn, we have, you know, 2.5 million people have found job connections or gotten a job from, you know, LinkedIn. You don't see that. I'm really kind of confused what this platform does. Besides, I mean, it's been around for a long time, and if you're, you know, a professional, then it's like mandatory that you be a part of LinkedIn, but I'm trying to see what the value is.
Do you know it is funny that you said it's mandated if you're a professional is and there is like this weird expectation that if you're working as a professional that you have some kind of LinkedIn profile somewhere. Because I've heard it like you go to a conference and like people would be like, "Oh, what's your or a convention? Like, what's your LinkedIn?" And if you don't have a LinkedIn, you kind of like feel sort of like, "Oh, I need to like step it up." And people have LinkedIn like profiles that never did before that we never would have, like, my mom's on LinkedIn and she's retired.
Hmm.
Thank God she is, because like, she is always, like, some I can be like, "Well, at least one person is gonna like this if I throw it up there. It's gonna be my mom." But, like, it's just, like I feel like we're just adding, like, social media platforms into our pockets because like, somebody says, like, "You're not on Instagram? You're not on" what's the newest one? You were telling me about it the other day,
Oh, there's Blue Skies.
Blue
Yeah,
Sky, uh,
there's all sorts of
Red through ins and a lot of them are owned by the same
same people.
organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the
So
people that I follow on LinkedIn that I actually like is an artist. And believe it or not, I really enjoy his posts because he's always serving something different, you know, featuring other artists or whatever. And I think as a professional, but not as a professional, I don't even want to use that kind of language. As a working person, it's nice to have a mental break sometimes, right? You know, not to be talked at, not to be solicited, but just something that kind of cleanses our mind. And that's what he does as an artist. And I love the fact that he is on LinkedIn and he shares, you know, his work and other artists' work. But I just find LinkedIn to be really dull. It's really, I think it's dull. And I could be a contributor to the dullness. Somebody could look at me and go, "Well, you're dull." Right. And I'm like, you might not be wrong, you know, but I just think with $17 billion in profits or revenue, that it can do something to be more innovative, more, you know, you know, more creative. There's my dog.
what so what would you want it to do? Like, if you could have a dream of a social media platform or like a what I'm not gonna say platform. If you could have a vision or dream of what you ideally want to see come out of the internet, what is it? Because I think these social media platforms started out with an idea of utilizing a new technology to better communicate and share and almost like instead of writing letters or getting on the telephone, you could send pictures. Like I get the innovativeness of it. Like, but what's missing from it?
You know, really, if I were just to, first of all, I don't have a dream about social media because I don't particularly like social media. Only because you know, I, 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 I see that these platforms are an opportunity to really spread really innovative, profound information. And to give folks and connecting people to thoughts and ideas and different ways of doing things that you wouldn't get, pre social media, where everything was either through the television or through the mail, right? But it is a platform to really share really bold ideas and bold ways of looking at it. Like who's doing what's happening in the business world that's really bold and really innovative and really thoughtful. I was having a conversation with someone at work yesterday, and they were talking about some of the problems that are in happening in the workforce today. And I work in HR as a training manager. And she said, I'm doing a lot of social work. I'm not a social worker. And it dawned on me. I said, boom. I said, I wonder one of the things that, because the workforce is changing, there's so much that's going on. People are inundated with so many things that prevent them from really being able to show up and to be the kind of workers that employers want. I wonder if it would be really a sort of a bold thing to do is to hire in-house social workers. Sounds crazy, right? But when you are dealing with a population of folks that are under a different amount of stress, there's people financially, even though they're working, can be struggling in many ways. There's domestic abuse and things of this nature that are going on. These are the realities of the employees in the workforce. There are different kinds of employees, right? But some of the client facing customer facing populations come with some challenges, right? I would love to hear organizations that would employ that, or employing some different things, or are doing different things to recruit different kinds of folks, or just innovation. I mean, you've got this powerful tool. It doesn't feel innovative really in any way to me.
So now I'm gonna devil's
If you
advocate, even
devil's
though I
advocate me, I'm going to disconnect you.
it will be like how we ended before, where I was like, I don't know how to get off the restream. I'm just gonna end it. No, but like I do want to say that we all know about the algorithm, right? We all know that there is an algorithm that if you click on something, it brings you more of something else. So I will say that the algorithm uh, greatly probably cuts off how well we see all of the different innovation that might be happening on LinkedIn, or any other social media for that sake. Like they have added video. That's a new thing that they added. The ability for us to show videos and to do more video content. They have added like more interface with Canva, which is, I think, like that's good in many ways and it's bad in many ways. They've added AI, the ability to kind of like play with AI, but every place is doing that. So when you think about like all the things that these social media platforms are doing, they're doing what all of the rest of them are doing. They're innovating at the same time everybody else is. But we're not necessarily seeing all of the great things or the innovative or more differing opinions, because once you get into an algorithm, it drives you to seeing the same stuff over and over again. So if I'm interested, because in my business at the moment, I need to understand how to market a different way and start, like looking for people who might do that, then all of a sudden, like I'm getting spammed by a bunch of things that could sell that to me, not just the people talking about it, which I think is my frustration with a lot of these social platforms, is that like if you get curious about something, then it thinks like you are like like that's your only interest. Like if I look up anybody who's LGBTQ plus in like the field and start like for something I want to write or something I want to like learn more about, then all of a sudden my whole algorithm is just completely drilling down on that. Like all of a sudden, and not just on LinkedIn. Like if I go to another social media area or platform or just go on the internet, all of a sudden I'm like inundated with pride stuff. And I don't have an issue with that other than to think to myself, I want to see everything. Like just because I looked up this in that moment doesn't mean that that is my only interest. And I think that is what's frustrating sometimes with social media. Like you click on one person and then it will send you like 20 billion other people doing that thing. And I wish that it functioned slightly differently. Like it shows you more of the things that you last research or something you last search for, uh, and not the people that maybe you may be close with. Because my mom looks at everything that like I've probably she's such a loving person in that way and so supportive of us, but I never see her posts. And that's because my mom posts a lot of like cats and like kitschy stuff, like, like 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 memes like that. And on my own, I don't look for those things. So it probably looks at that as she's not going to buy because it's all about the buy. So it looks more at like the things that I've clicked on that I've probably gone deeper into than like, oh, look at this cute cat picture. I like those things too, mom. But like,
Mm.
it's I just find it is not great at continuing to grow connection, social media, period. But I do think that all of these social platforms do as much innovative stuff as they believe their expectation is. And when we talk about how much profit these places are making, um, if I had made a whole bunch of profit, I don't know if I would be like, oh, well, I would be like that, but I don't know how much LinkedIn is like $17 billion profit. We're going to reinvest a percentage into the health and wellness of our employees. And I don't know this for a fact. So I'm not saying LinkedIn doesn't do that. I'm sure someone will reach out and be like, LinkedIn saved my life, yada, yada, yada. Because they do a lot of that, right? Like there's so many posts and things that I've seen where people have lost jobs, especially in this DEI crisis, diversity, equity, and inclusion crisis, where and I'm calling it a crisis because a lot of companies decided to do it, hired people into positions, created departments, and then they encountered some pushback or they encountered some you some hey, you really need to lean into this. And they dumped the departments, they dumped the people they hired. And so I would see tons of posts saying, like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Can somebody and I saw people get hired through this. So I see the value in it in that way, but I also saw a post like, "I've been looking for a job for like a year and no one's hiring." Um, so I go back and forth on like, is
Yeah,
LinkedIn a
yeah.
monster?
No, I don't think I won't call it up. They're all monsters, right? That's yeah. But I don't. I would love to, whoever's watching or if whoever sees this later, just to weigh in to share what value they see in LinkedIn as a platform, what they think LinkedIn is supposed to do, if they think it actually meets that. And again, this conversation started to talking about, how much we feel we're being spammed by, folks who are always looking to sell us something before really, social media it sort of would make you think that this is about really getting to know people and forming relationships, and it's really all about sales. And the amount of AI driven sales sponsored stuff that we get through LinkedIn. And again, when you think, okay, if I'm paying for a premium service, why am I being spammed? Why? And what's yeah, why?
Yeah, what does paying for service mean? Because we started out with that too, because like we pay for everything. We pay for streaming, like all of these things that we've now just conditioned ourselves to pay for without like, there was some talk. Do you remember when Netflix, I'm jumping around here, when Netflix stopped the ability for people to share? Like,
Mhm.
they were like, "Oh, that's really not what we were
Mhm.
about." And like, you can't share your membership to and everybody was like, "This is the end of Netflix. They'll go under. They don't realize who their market is. This is going to really sink them if they don't allow us to share." They did it, and they're still functioning.
Mhm.
And we're paying even more, right? Like other social media platforms followed later with that, like,
And
"Hey, are
then
you?"
and then
Yes.
then Netflix said, "Hey, how about this? If you want a little discount on your membership, let us slip a couple of commercials in there." I'm like,
Yes.
you know what? The moment that you make viewing and commercials a part of my subscription plan without me clicking something to get that, that's the day I'm done. Because I don't want to be advertised to every living moment of my life. I just don't. It's exhausting. It's a punishment to just be inundated everywhere you go with somebody trying to sell you something. It is, and I started talking about, and I'm gonna, because we're not gonna stay on long today, but I started talking about in our last live about a company called Palantir. I would really advise people to, it's PAL. Let me see if I can spell this for you, to do some research on this company, because it is, our government is using it to mine our information, really intimate information, health records, social security, bank accounts, all of that kind of information. And I think that it's really important that you are familiar with this company. It is Palantir, Palantir, I'm guessing, but they are a data collection agency. And again, when you start to get to really cellular, molecular information about who I am and who you are, how is that information going to be used? And you know that it is absolutely going to be sold to people who are going to sell to us, even on a more intense level. And I'm really not for that. But just information is the new gold, okay? And so we really need to be aware of companies, again, being hired by our government to collect all sorts of information about us.
Well, because there's nothing more valuable than a customer list, right? Like, really, like when someone shares their information, they connect with you. Technically, those become lead lists to sell something to. But what if that list for you is more of a community list or a growth list? Like, I'm going to say it right now. I want to do a book club. I want to do a virtual book club. I totally do. I just have not had the like, who wants to join me in doing that? We'll do book club. But anywho, like, I want things like that sometimes from social media,
Yes, yeah.
and I don't necessarily see that happening. But I do think we have become so sort of conditioned to be consumers that we get okay with when something changes to pay for that. Like, we're also like, I find myself doing this too. Sometimes we get a little lazy with all of the thing. I don't know. I don't want to use the phrase lazy because I don't like that word. Um, we get a little bit
Complacent.
complacent. Yes, because there is so much work to do when it comes to all the things I have to be aware of, right? I have to be aware of who's collecting all of my data. I have to be aware of who might be trying to steal my information and data. So I have to purchase something that is going to help me stay safe on the internet. I think most of us have some type of something that is looking for scammers and browsers or safety something. We have to have, when we look at like streaming services, there's various levels. If you're premium, you don't get advertised to. So you don't have that emotional, like, and I do feel like it's a very emotional abuse by these advertisers. You don't have to see all that spam because you've made it to the hierarchy level where you can buy your way out of this, right? So,
Buy your way into peace.
yes, it's a buying into peace. And that is, you mentioned, like, since you said this, if you look at, well, the peace piece, like holistic practice, how that's not free. Peace is not free. Massage is not included in your healthcare. Neither is if you want to like do aromatherapy. Anything that indicates partial like peace or calm or the nature, we're buying that in the US. We're paying for silence, for silence. And at and I don't know a solution to this because,
There's
we
a
can s
solution. You have to unplug. I mean, again, and I was sharing in our last live. I follow a lot of content creators who are homesteaders, who are people who are living minimalist life, who are just not buying into, that. Do I need 50 pair of shoes, or do I need, a couple of pair of comfortable shoes? Do I need all of this stuff that you purchase or you're being sold to? I have things, and I'm not a big spender, but I have things in boxes that I haven't even opened. Clutch the pearls.
I'm sh I'm sure a lot of people do.
It,
But I would even say, like, if and that includes us, if you're on the internet, like, you are still not, or you're on social media, you're still pushing what might be a false idea. Like, all of these people who are homesteaders and minimalists and sharing this, you're still making money off of those shares of videos and, like, saying, "Here's an alternative to life," right? But in order to see that alternative to life, I have to be on the internet and I have to
Mhm.
be subscribed to something. I have to like buy something to get into that. And so like when we even think about how, all of us are paying for internet subscriptions. And do you remember when they gave out that free thing that got on the TV and it gave you like 3 channels or 12 channels or something, and it was a government, because public channels were going away or the way that we were accessing them were going away. And we were seeing a boost to streaming, and there was argument that to pay for cable networks and to pay for that, was a burden to those who like information is a necessity. It's you have to have a way to communicate to
I think
people.
that was for like local channels or something like
Yes, for
that.
local channels, so you could get 'em so that the emergency broadcast stuff would show up for, people. Now, I doubt that the government would do anything like that to make sure that we were aware of critical situations, because I've heard stuff about the weather, the National Weather Service is shifting and going in a different direction. So, like, it seems like we have become, like, sort of complacent and immune to, well, I guess I'm going to have to pay for this. I guess I'm going to have to pay to have internet service. I guess I'm going to and that is the level of service where you're less advertised to, where that would have been a given if you laid out any money for TV or internet or whatever, that you were not going to be inundated with ads. And I don't know how to say to people like because, like, I like Netflix, but I do like all these streaming services, and all of them have ads, which
Yeah,
is how this came up because my
yeah,
kids' friends were making fun of us.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm craving a much more simpler life, you know. And when people outside of the United States come to visit, or people who are expats and they come back to the United States, they are astounded and overwhelmed by the amount of advertisement we have. I don't think, and again, because of that, most of us are living in a fog. We're exhausted, physically tired, right? You're just so used to, these constant barrage of interruptions. There is nothing that you can access that is online that does not interrupt your train of thought, that does not take you away from what you're really there for, to push you into some sort of form of advertisement. And that's why I'm really thinking these days, for my own mental health well-being, that it might be really necessary to really reduce my access to on online. I'm tired of being advertised to. I'm tired of having, we are developing, and teachers are complaining about students not being able to focus. We can't even focus. I'm turn on a YouTube channel, or I turn on the YouTube. I see a video I want to get into the content, and before I can get into it, I got to go through two, three, advertisements. Like I said, you're like this, waiting to hit the skip button. That's mentally,
Or
there's something wrong with that.
or you're watching a movie, right? And you're getting into it, and and then all of a sudden it's like, "Would you like to buy cornflakes?" And it's a horror movie, and I'm like, "Oh, this just ruined it for
Yeah,
me."
I don't want to buy cornflakes, and I'm not. When
Like, what is that with suspension of disbelief? Like, when
Yeah,
it like
yeah,
and
now,
that's when my son will turn to me and he'll go, "We can't get the" he's like, why are there commercials?" He's
yeah,
like, "Mom, come on." And I'm like, "When you pay, then you can complain."
yeah,
And then I also think about, do I need to watch this show? I should take my butt to the library and rent a
and,
movie.
or read something, and you know what? And that's why it's very difficult for me to sit in one sitting, to watch a movie, because my attention span has been. I've always had a short attention span, but now it could take me days to, the Wild Robot. I've been watching that for days. I
That's
c-
a great
I
movie.
can hardly sit down, and but we've been talking long enough today. So
Well, we technically could do 8 more minutes to make this stuff because I did take down the other one. I think I did, Many
yeah, we
Nieces.
we were 20 minutes into that. So let's go.
Sh she's done with me because,
So,
like, the technical difficulties really were my fault, and I am sleepy as the day goes on. I just think but I want to argue that I was up at, like, 5 something because like, the bird was outside my window like, "Burr, burr, 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 burr," and I was like, "Oh, nature, it's so beautiful. Why
mhm.
don't you go back to bed, bird?" Like, I just want to throw that out there. So I do apologize. Also, for the people that do follow us or watch us or whatever, we're curious what would be the best time if you're going to join us live. Because I am best in the morning, uh, and you are more of an afternoon person. So, what time do you really think we should do this? Right, like lunchtime. Now, I'm of the thought that like most people watch this on the rewinds, and that like we could do this at 2 a.m. and people would be happy.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm probably up at 2 a.m. All right, folks. So thank you for joining us. Those who joined us live, and a shout out to Sandy. Hey, Buffalo. This, see, June 14th is our celebration of Juneteenth. We've been celebrating Juneteenth here for 49 years. We're looking for volunteers for our local folks, 2-hour shifts, right? But yeah, we used to have, I don't know if it still is, one of the largest Juneteenth celebrations in the country. But yeah, I always look forward to Juneteenth. I always do.
And I'll just say this: Philly Pride is Sunday because that is the first. So Philadelphia Pride is on Sunday. Um, and so June is LGBTQ plus Pride Month. It is the month where we acknowledge just, us as a people. I'm not going to go into deep with this because I'm not prepared. But it's more than just about rainbows. And it is really about, we're here, we're queer, get used to it. And I just want to point out gay people have existed forever, and we exist for more than just you. And if your company is a rainbow washing company, which Target turned out to be, just remember that if you really love queer people and the community, don't just do a big campaign in June, do it all the time. Donate and invest in the community all year round. all year round.
I just saw something. I was looking for it. I just saw something that said that a lot of companies are moving back from celebrating Pride this year. So let's
We
give
can talk
it.
about that next week because those companies were performative.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're moving back because you're afraid of like a certain segment. You're afraid to be looked at and seen as like an organization that might get targeted by a certain administration. Can we not be more Harvard has not always been perfect, but I think Harvard is a example and model of not being bullied, okay? Like, if we don't want a world that doesn't bully us and doesn't continue to take advantage of people, at some point, we've got to hold the line.
Mhm.
Like, I think if we had held the line with Netflix, we'd still all be sharing, right? I think if we had held the line with commercials in paid for services, and holding the line means saying like, we're not gonna play it.
Well,
We're
ask
not
me,
gonna
ask me about Target. Ask me about Walmart. Ask me about Amazon. Have not bought for months, and I don't plan on it. And I'm gonna tell you, Amazon is a hard one because there's so much stuff that you could get, but I'm not doing it. I'm not
you
doing
know,
it.
I
I'm
So
not
maybe this
doing
is
it.
something to talk about next week because Amazon I have mixed feelings about because Amazon does a lot of good, they do a lot of bad. So
Mm,
Amazon for me is almost like a Microsoft and like because
no,
like I
Amazon.
freely admit I order from Amazon and I got something and I noticed that Amazon will say on their products like, "Hey, this what do you call it? What the packaging, the company they work with is a woman-owned company." Like I've noticed that from Amazon continuing, and Amazon has been a little bit quiet about like, well, what it
It's not
like
even. It's also Bezos.
I think, and that's where yeah, we could talk. I think we also have to learn how to separate the loud voices at companies from what the companies themselves do
You
and the
don't.
people that work.
Mm-mm.
Yes, yes,
No,
we do.
no.
Yeah.
You're not separating Tesla from
Tesla
Elon.
wishes that we
Yeah.
would,
I
right?
mean, come on.
Like,
Yeah. There was
what
a
is it
time.
That's a great discussion. What is it when your CEO is popular and a celebrity? Because we never used to have celebrity CEOs either, and social media has brought about the rise of this, which is what LinkedIn probably created, the celebrity CEO. What happens, and companies see this all the time, what happens when you have celebrity CEOs and they go a totally different way than maybe your organization started out to be, and they no longer represent the values and the mission of the organization? Or what if they say something or they do something or they create this like persona that your organization doesn't kind of follow or believe in? And like Target is just like, come on, Target. Did you not know your effing market? Like the fact that you moved away, like they have Target.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Well,
worked part time at Target, and
yeah.
I told you I quit because I was like, "You're not gonna talk to me like that." And it was many years ago,
No,
and I always said, like, "These guys are performative."
well, I know you don't. I know you don't want to give up your Amazon. I didn't either. But you know what? If my people can not take a bus for a year, I can give up Amazon. I'm just
And I
saying.
you know what? And I'm proud of people who do. And then like, I have like a very love-hate relationship with Amazon because I've been Amazoning since Amazon was not profitable and was like that was a place where you got $25 worth of free books. Like I used to get like because I worked at Borders back then. I started out in books. um and like they were trying to get people to try this new market, so they like everything I got in the beginning was free. I don't think I ever paid for anything, and it created this like, oh, I can trust buying something from. So let's acknowledge Amazon for what they did. they created a society that was okay with purchasing something off the internet. 'Cause I remember doing that and, like, people being like, "You did what? You went how do you know? You didn't touch it."
but
And books
but
you don't have to touch,
but
right?
also
Right?
yeah,
Like,
but also keeping in mind too that Amazon is a union buster. They don't treat their people well. Yeah.
I
So
don't deny any of that.
yeah. So see you next week. We're gonna try this 11:30 thing again. Let's see how this goes.
I'm gonna have more coffee before then,
Please do.
but not to the point of, like, shaky eye.
That's it. She probably will. And she's gonna touch something and we're all gonna be
It's gonna be a mess again.
mute. That's what we're gonna be. We're gonna be mute. Have a good week, folks. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us for MT Fridays. A good time, and hope you did too. Join us each Friday as we fill the brain drain one unscripted conversation at a time. Like, subscribe, and share. Help us spread our reach on YouTube. Until next Friday, stay curious.